North 34th Street, printing in faith. We'll be happy to have you. It's Youth Day. We're dressing down in our jeans and t-shirts. Come on out and worship with us. And Glenn Danes over at Allen Temple, happy birthday.
Live, love, respect, go make memories. Let's get in some good trouble and take care of our community.
WTMP HD, Egypt Lake, Tampa, and now on 102.1 in Pinellas County. The views, opinions, and this radio broadcast are solely the views of this particular program and its host. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast does not reflect or represent the views of WTMP, its officers, staff, or advisors. Listen to the Call for Help show with attorney Paul Rebein every Saturday morning at right here on WTMP. And if you need a personal injury attorney, call the Rebein Brothers PA at 813-305-7285. 813-305-7285.
Good morning and welcome to the Call for Help show. I'm your host, attorney Paul Rebein. Got lots of people with me today. As usual in the studio, co-hosts Robin Lockett and Brenda Fruster, and recurring co-host Malcolm Shavers. Welcome everyone. Malcolm was absent without leave last week. People wondered where you were.
Where is Malcolm?
I'm back. I had to go handle a little business. When
he was being very vague about where he was.
I wasn't being vague, but I was just, man. I mean, sometimes you gotta dip out, be low key. I had to shave my head.
Self-care.
Yes,
that's right.
I always put self-care in there. That works every time. That makes people back up.
That's right. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
That's, he had to leave to celebrate his birthday.
Yes.
Every day is his birthday.
Celebrating right now.
Also with us today, he's actually in the WTMP studios. We are not. We're all in our homes, but he's in the studio. Reverend Willie Dixon. Welcome to the Call for Help show. Reverend Dixon, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Well, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to have you today. Before we get to our interview of you, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about your story?
Everybody know Reverend Dixon.
Okay. Robin says everybody knows about him, but
I'm just teasing.
Give me the 30-second version.
Yes, my name is Reverend Willie D. Dixon, and first of all, I want to do a disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. Only thing I can say is what happened to me and the people that I helped during my incarceration and after my incarceration. And I want people to know that about 90% of the people that are incarcerated today are there by a plea bargain. And most plea bargains, as we look at them, we want to find out whether they're legal or illegal. And if they have an illegal sentence, we want to talk about that. And I do have with me this morning Mrs. Gerard Harris, Jones, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Jones. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Gerard Jones, and I was incarcerated in the Florida Department of Corrections for the past 25 and a half years for a stolen car. And and I got out December 30th, 2021. And me and my sister have opened a paralegal business called the Intellect Paralegal. And we're doing work for a few lawyers now. And I assisted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of inmates as a law clerk while in prison. And we were successful in doing a lot of things like child custody issues with them and reducing sentences, and actually, was responsible for getting quite a few people out who had lengthy sentences. So
was did you get sentenced to 25 years for stealing the car, or how did that work out to be that you spent that much time there?
I got sentenced to 30 years as a habitual offender because I had been in trouble before for stuff that I had did. I'm not one of the people that try to act together. Now, I'd like to say this here too, plea bargain. Most people, plea bargain is not itself an evil thing because 99.9% of the people that I ran across in prison actually committed their crime. And the reason why the people that be on TV when they get exonerated who didn't commit their crimes is because, sir, it is very, very hard to come to prison in this day and age for something you absolutely, positively had nothing to do with it. But as in my case, it does happen. But since I didn't have a horrific rape, child murder, or something like that, people are not interested in exonerating me or something like that. So I ended up, while I couldn't get myself out being actually innocent, I freed numerous people that were guilty of sin. And the plea bargain component is most people have committed a crime and they don't want to face the full maximum that they would get as a punishment for going to trial. And the law does punish you for going to trial. Is because it would shut down the whole judicial system if everybody said, not only do I want a trial, but I want that 60-day trial found in Rule 3.191 that says no matter what, if you say you're ready and you don't need to call no more witnesses or whatever, if you can gather everybody together, you're allowed to have the trial within 60 days, no matter what the crime is for. And the state couldn't muster enough courtrooms, enough jury pools, it would just shut the system down. So they came up with a plea bargain thing to say, if you guys don't make us crank up the jury trial machine and you guys cop out, we'll give you something lesser and you can just go and sin no more. That's the idea behind it.
Got it. And Reverend Dixon, are you saying that why are you saying that these plea bargains are illegal or that some of them are?
Well, some of them are illegal because of this. When you go to trial, the judge or your attorney must tell you the direct consequences of your plea. And when they fail to do that, your sentence is null and void. Now, Gerard will tell you more about that.
Yeah, like Reverend Dixon said, we're not lawyers, but he has a life experience. He's a ex-prisoner who's received, to his credit, a full pardon, and he's not looked back. He's went forward and he's helped 1 million people and still trying to help 1 million more people at the ripe old age of 9. And he don't seem to have a slow day, to me, since I've met Reverend Dixon. But the plea, what he was addressing in, from my experience and, with myself and assisting I was at prisons that had 2,000 people on each compound and nobody wanted to be there. So I heard every story about from every prisoner at every prison. And one of the things that was like a common theme that was ubiquitous in the community is that most people, they were not told about some direct consequences of their plea. Like right now, I'll bet you that nobody was told when they entered their first plea that they would lose their First Amendment political process voting right, or that they would lose their Second Amendment right to carry and own a gun. Now, if you are an illegal alien, I really hate using that term, calling people aliens like they're from outer space, but I mean people like from different countries. If you're a person from a different country and you commit a crime and they don't tell you that you could face the consequences of deportation as a direct result of entering that plea, it's almost automatic. As soon as you enter the plea and sign a dotted line and get fingerprinted, you are subject to be deported by the immigration authority. So they have a case, Padilla versus Kentucky, you can look it up, and they overturned his plea bargain based upon the fact that they didn't tell this person who was in our country illegally that he could possibly be deported out of our country for having committed the crime and entered the plea. Now let's go ahead and jump.
Okay, hold up. We got a question for you. And let me make a comment. I am a lawyer, but I'm not a criminal attorney. So I can't really speak to any of these things, but I have been in courtrooms where people were doing plea bargains and the judge does question them pretty extensively about the consequences that making the plea is going to cause them. I don't know if they tell them everything, but Robin, you had a question, but let me invite somebody else, other people to call in 888-247-8712 if you've got something to add to this discussion. What was your question, Robin?
Something similar to what you were just saying, Paul. So Gerard, and Reverend Dixon and I have had extensive conversations about this, but is it currently when you're finding that when somebody pleads to a plea deal that they're not being provided this information in this year and time, or is it like when you were 25 years ago, those years ago, that they didn't provide that information? Because like Paul said, when I listen to, they go over it, they ask you, do you understand it? Blah, blah, blah. Now, whether they say your right to vote and bear arms or hold, own a gun, I'm not sure about that. But restitution and all that other stuff, they do. I think they provide that. But what in years time, is year span, what are you talking about? What are you looking for?
Yes, ma'am. Very, very intelligent question. And I'm talking about back then and even recently. It was only recently that the Padilla versus Kentucky, look it up, Padilla versus Kentucky. In that case there, that guy had a underlying marijuana charge. He copped out to it. They didn't tell him that as a result of copping out to it, he could be deported. That case is recent law out of the United States Supreme Court. That is where all this law about, one of the first things they tell people now, even American citizens, they say it as just a catch-all during the plea colloquy. They say, if you commit a crime, do you know that if you're not a citizen, you can be deported? Well, and they also have to tell you about other direct consequences, like if there's restitution, if there's a curfew, what time the curfew is, and that you'll lose your right to appeal, your right to call witnesses, your right to have a lawyer appointed, and everything done like that. But what I'm saying is, if you look at a recent colloquy, you can go just do a little court watch this week. Go to the circuit court down there and sit in there. Nobody gets told that. Do you know that you have a First Amendment right to participate in the political process? And as part of that, you can vote. Now, if you cop out, you can't vote no more.
Let me ask another question. I don't mean to interrupt you, but are we talking about, let's say that this didn't happen, somebody wasn't told about the consequences of their plea. Are you saying that they just get out of jail at that point, or do they then get a new trial? They get
it. Listen. Okay, let me preface my remarks with this. I know that we need jail. I know that we need prison. I am not some person who thinks that everybody in prison need to be let out. I personally don't want you to let everybody out of prison. If people need to be in prison, people need to be in jail. I'm just saying, people in jails and prisons are there because society dictated and stated that those people didn't follow the rules and regulations. So certainly, the people who are a part of that system that keeps people in jail and prison should always be seen to lose themselves, or they're no better than the people that they got locked up. Now, I'm not saying that the people should just walk free from gotcha technicality. What I'm saying is those people should be allowed to withdraw their plea and proceed to trial, because they otherwise would not have entered those pleas had they been told that they couldn't vote and they're going to automatically lose their gun rights. You lose a precious First Amendment right and a Second Amendment right. 1, 2, 1, 2, just like that. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, you lose it 1, 2, 2 as soon as you enter a plea bargain. You can't vote, and you can't bear arms no more. Nobody is told that. Go listen to any colloquy. Now, they're going to start doing it now because we have a show about it, and the light bulb is going to go off and somebody say it. But everybody, I would argue that they can withdraw their plea on that basis alone.
Go ahead, Robin.
So let me ask, specifically, have you guys been in courtrooms today and know for a fact that they don't, when they give that plea deal and they make you sign this plea deal, those things are not on, that you're going to lose your rights, you cannot bear arms. Have y'all looked at this specifically and noticed for a fact that they don't offer that right now? Now I can question the 25 years.
Here's what I'm saying, ma'am. I have been in prison for 25 years, and here's how I know they don't do it. No, I haven't been to the courthouses. Here's how I know they don't do it, though. The guys come in freshly sentenced. They have their plea transcript, a direct official transcript certified and stamped by the court reporter, and it's in the court file. I don't have to go to the courthouse. I can just read it. I'm reading
Okay.
it there from 1 million people in prison, and nobody is told that they lose their right to vote and their right to bear arms.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so
Let me throw it back to some of our other hosts here. Malcolm, what are your thoughts about these plea bargain deals and going to trial versus taking a plea?
Well, one thought on it, Paul, what I think about is, I don't understand how you can lose a constitutional right, period. I
Right.
thought it was just something given to you because you were born, you birthed. So
That's a good point.
how can a
Yeah.
man who's being voted in by their peers make a decision to take that from you when that's a birth
I
gift?
think that has been. I think that has been ruled on by the Supreme Court that says that these rights are not absolute and can't be taken away. Obviously, if you go to prison, they can take away.
Subject to. They say subject to or contingent upon. Could be taken away from you. Sharon Newsom. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the judge does ask the person if they have been made aware of the conditions and understand, and the person says yes. But that does not mean that the attorney tells them the details before they may be missing vital parts of this information. The message that I am hearing is that we need to make sure that those that are currently taking plea deals are fully aware of the consequences and what is involved in taking the deal.
Yeah, a lot of times.
I second that emotion for Sharon Newsom. That is a situation that I faced with my grandson in 2015. And for our family, that was a new that was new for us. So he's behind the bars and he's been talked to, but we don't know until after the plea deal has been made what he agreed to. But on the other side, we had thousands of questions, but the plea deal had already been made. So and at this time you're talking 18, 19-year-old, which is still a child or not quite
Hold that
mature. So
hold
he
that
had
thought.
someone.
Sorry to interrupt. Hold that thought, because I think that issue, is an interesting one. And what I've also seen is they might charge you with more than what you really should be charged with. And then they say you're going to be facing 25 years.
Scare tactics.
But if you take this deal, you're just going to get 10 or whatever. And really all you should have been charged with was 10 to begin with. So I think they overcharge and then use it as a bargaining tool to get you to plea to what you basically should have been charged with to begin with. But we have a caller. Caller, welcome to the Call for Help show.
Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
question would be, what is the end game for this? If you were to get a new trial and you're not going to take another plea deal, so I agree, they shouldn't just be let out. So once this is vacated, do they go back to trial, or can they agree to a new plea deal? Because you're taking a plea deal, that's the best thing on the table.
Yeah, I think what that was the question that I had, and I think the
Right.
answer is you're not getting out. The most you would probably get would be now you're back to square one and facing the charges and going to trial, and maybe they'll give you a different deal. I don't know.
So facing the charges. So
I'll
facing
let
the charges without the plea deal, you go back to trial.
Yeah, well, if your plea is invalidated, then
And the original charges.
I would assume that's you're going to be back facing the original charges, and maybe it would be more difficult to prove, years later.
Yeah, so I guess that's the question for Reverend Dixon and Gerard. What is the end game? Is it just to make awareness of this, or is it to provide to show the injustice of it? What's the end game?
let me say this. If you go back to trial, if you were prejudiced by the judge, they cannot enhance your sentence.
Okay.
Well, look, Gerard and I, we're disagreeing on that. But anyway, that's why you go to court, because there's disagreement. But But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the law. But what I have in my hand right now is 90 different surveys that I had published in the paper. And every one that I received, and they send it back to me, they said that they were not advised of the direct consequences of their plea. So therefore, but this is it. Like when I used to go to court, if everybody files for a trial, as Gerard said, you'll break down the judicial system. Then the judicial system will start doing what they should do. But we have to remember this. Remember when they came in with Amendment 13, when they did away with slavery, well then prison became the tool that they kept a lot of people in bondage. And this for many reasons that we can't go into right now because we don't have the time.
Hold that thought, Reverend. We got a caller.
Read the book by Dr. Michelle Alexander. She has a book out, The New Jim Crow, and it's also mass incarceration.
Okay, caller, welcome to the Call for Help show.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, this is Michael Randolph. I wanted to call in today because the fact of the matter is that the state's attorney do not tell people about their rights related to guns nor the voting rights. How do I know? I worked for the state's attorney's office as an intern. It's all about the correction. It's not whether or not you're right or wrong. It's about the correction. So be very careful about people saying they don't know their rights because they don't tell you their rights. That's why I left the state's attorney's office. It's all about the correction. It's political. At the end of the year, they want to show how many people was convicted and not how many people's lives they damaged.
Thank you. I
Well,
mean, I
that
guess
should
that
be
was-
Lord,
do you think that,
I can respond real quick to that.
sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that person, pretty much putting their job on the line by, advocating and saying, but this, and I heard their passion, and they just sound like somebody who just don't like the unfairness that seems to be swirling around the fact of the state not advising. But the reason that's not the state attorney's job.
I was just gonna say that. Thank you.
They created the public defender system was after 1963 when Clarence Gideon broke in a pool room and told him he was entitled to a lawyer. And they said, no, you're not. And all the Florida court said he wasn't. And the old Fifth Circuit that the court in Texas used to be over Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. They told him no, and he went to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the landmark case of Gideon versus Wainwright was announced. And they say everybody, no matter what, got a right to a lawyer. So the lawyer's job is to tell you about your rights. It's not the state attorney's job. The state attorney's job is to prosecute you. So
I agree.
I'm passionate about that. That's not their function of the state attorney.
I agree with that.
I heard somebody say you can't lose your constitutional rights. I don't know where that idea came from. You can lose your constitutional rights. Watch this. We're 30-second scenario. I get arrested. Two police officers arrest me. I'm just making this scenario up. One of them goes into Orient Road to take the weapons and lock the weapons in the little case, and I'm in the back seat with the other officer. The other officer is filling out a report. So nobody reads me my rights. So when I go to court, I tell the judge, hey, the officer didn't read me my rights. So they bring officer number one. He say, sir, did you read Mr. Jones's rights? He said, no, I was putting the weapons up. My partner was in the car with him. I thought he did it. Then they bring the partner who was in the car. They say, no, I thought my partner had got him and read his rights when he first arrested him and brought him to the car. So the judge would say, so nobody read him his rights? And they say, no, Your Honor. They say, Mr. Jones, you didn't get read your rights? And I say, no. And it's written in stone. I didn't get read my rights. Now they say, Mr. Jones, what did you tell him? I say, oh, I didn't tell him nothing. I kept my mouth closed. So it's a violation of my constitutional rights. Miranda versus Arizona, you got to tell a person about their rights, but there was no harm. See, all these rights and rules are subject to what they call the harmless error analysis. If they violate your rights, but no harm results, they keep getting on up with the proceedings. So don't let that traumatize you or something or nothing like that. But I was very, very green to law, and I filed every wrong motion in every wrong court you could possibly file. And the court put so many judicial decision hickeys on my head that I took the time after about 3 years to learn venues, standing, res judicata, collateral estoppel, latches, procedure, standing. And I learned to do it the wrong way because the bottom line is no matter what rules, laws, statutes they break to get you in prison, you got to follow all of them the right way to get out.
Yep. I think that with that Miranda, what he's talking about, Miranda says that if they didn't read you your rights and you gave them information or confessed to the crime or whatever, then they can't use that against you in court because you didn't know your rights. But it doesn't mean that they just let you go. If they still have evidence to pursue you. But I guess my question, I'll put it to Malcolm. If you were facing 25 years and let's say you did it, and you could take a plea that's going to get you 10, would you take the plea even though you knew you were going to lose your right to vote and to carry a firearm? Or you think you would say, no, I don't want to lose?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna take the plea, and I wouldn't care if I lost the right to firearm because I don't need man to tell me to protect myself. It's common sense that I know, regardless that I went to jail, man's not gonna tell me not to carry a weapon to protect myself, because if someone comes and hurt me, who am I gonna look for? I can't wait on the police to come. I'm just gonna use common sense on that. Yes, I'm gonna take the plea so I can get out earlier. But number two, I'm not worried about the rights definitely on the firearm.
What about the right to vote?
Well, on the votes, I really wouldn't trip on that either. It's not. It's not something that I'm.
He's telling the truth because that's what most people. He's real. He's real because a lot of people. That's not their concern, especially when you're facing time.
Yeah, and I know people are like, "Hey, man, every vote's count." Well, my one vote ain't gonna count. It ain't gonna change if this guy's gonna win or not. And that's what I'm gonna believe. I'm gonna get out. So,
well, I don't agree. I mean, I think that my opinion is that if you've served your sentence and you're done, you should be allowed to participate like everybody else.
Oh, absolutely. But they had to take that right away from you. So they had to put something in writing stating that you couldn't do that. It hadn't always been that way. So they had to put something in writing to pull that away from you. Just like the right to bear arms, to pull that. So what Malcolm was saying earlier is these rights, we're born into these rights.
Right.
To bear arms and to vote. But they created wordage or verbiage to take it away from you if XYZ happens, if you get a felony or whatever. They take that away from you.
What is that? What does protecting yourself got to do with you made a mistake in your life? You're 18, you made a huge mistake. You're 29 years old now. You can't protect yourself? I can't have a gun in my house? Crime, I live in a high crime area, and crime is happening all around me.
Not if you have a felony.
It ain't just happening in high crime, it's happening everywhere. But I heard the word restoration. These people need to be restored back to society 100%. I don't always agree if the gun was taken away from you because of the way you may have murdered some people, that part I'm kind of on a thin line. But restoring you back into society, giving you 100% rights need to be written, as Ms. Robbins said. We need to go back and visit that, and it needs to be rewritten, because to take my right away to vote while I'm incarcerated is one thing, but now that I'm out, I've paid the price. Give me my right back so I can vote.
So Gerard, I'm sorry.
Oh, some states, they allow you to vote while you're in prison.
Yeah, just Florida.
I didn't know. That's good.
Yeah, some states do. Gerard and Reverend Dixon. So what are next steps? What are next steps?
And we just got a very short amount of time. So
yes, sir. Okay, well, through the Coach Foundation's leader, Reverend Dixon, we kind of like brainstorm a program called Go Forth, and it's specifically designed to address the Fourth Amendment that was on the ballot, where everybody was happy and, hey, the prisoners can vote, and then Governor DeSantis shot it down. Now, Attorney Rebein, you said that you believe that when a person has done their time for doing the crime, they should be re-engaged in the political process. So I'm going to ask you to throw your hat in as governor, and you can make that happen as your first campaign promise, okay? We just get that. But realistically, okay, so we came up with an acronym, Go Forth. Like it's a play on the words for the Fourth Amendment and going forth, moving forward. And it stands for guiding our former offenders returning to home. Go forth. And it's specifically about engaging Governor DeSantis, and like a deal. What it was on the table that everybody can vote when they come out. Then he came up with the technicalities that if their fines and fees are paid. Okay,
Okay.
most people can't pay the fines and fees for the crimes that they committed, thousands of dollars, and then the 13% interest every year. So it's tens of thousands of dollars. We're trying to get, it's 1.5 million people who are formerly convicted felons and 96,000 inside the prisons now.
Okay,
So
I got to stop you there
1.5 million.
because we got to go forth. Our time is up. Thank you guys for being on the show. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week
All right.
They're
on
kicking us off.
the Call for Help show.
Next week.
The NFL draft is coming up, and WTFP is keeping you